And this present window of opportunity, during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built, will not be here for too long.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
It's the need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
And the President outlined his vision of a new world order in which the US would participate fully,
We'll tell you
one rooted on four basic principles.
Non-proliferation and disarmament,
None of it is true.
the promotion of peace and security, the preservation of our planet, and a global economy that advances opportunity for all people.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world
your
order.
plan, you can keep your plan.
I would like to discuss the recent revelations of the connection between the CIA and Hollywood via 34-year CIA employee John Rizzo, who broke the organization's Omerta Code of Silence, supposedly, and wrote a book outlining lots and lots of truth. I mean, this has been going on. But they're scratching the surface here once again, not giving the details of the things that are below the surface, you know, like out of the frame that you can't see but is going on right now. For example, it's absolutely on record here in this book that he wrote. It's called Company Man, 30 Years of Controversy and Crisis in the CIA. Whistleblower Rizzo, who was general counsel for the entire CIA, admits the CIA has long had a relationship with the entertainment industry, devoting considerable attention to fostering relationships with Hollywood movers and shakers. This is all true. There's a project called Mockingbird, which was used actually to influence the media, the news, and Hollywood. How interesting is that? And we're going to go into that in detail here in just a few moments. But I just want you to understand that they're leaving so much out of this picture that it's truly another piece of COINTELPRO work. The fact that we know Angelina Jolie is CIA, CFR, CIA, the whole thing, she plays CIA agents. Same thing with people like Steven Seagal. Same thing with people like George Clooney. There's a reason for all these movies they're in, and there's a reason the way that they're portrayed. It exactly comes through this Mockingbird program and MK Ultra also. So let's get into this a little bit deeper. Stay tuned. In 1948, Frank Wisner was appointed director of the Office of Special Projects, which was renamed the Office of Policy Coordination and became the Espionage Counterintelligence Branch of the CIA. Wisner was tasked to create an organization that concentrated on propaganda, economic warfare, preventive direct action, including sabotage, anti-sabotage, demolition, and evacuation measures. That same year, Wisner established Mockingbird, a program to influence the domestic American media. He recruited Philip Graham of the Washington Post to run the project within the newspaper industry. Graham himself recruited others who had worked for military intelligence during the war, including James Truitt, Russell Wiggins, Phil Galen, John Hayes, and Alan Barth. Others like Stuart Alsop and Joseph Alsop, James Reston, were also recruited from within the Georgetown set. Remember CFR insider Carol Quigley, Bill Clinton's globalist mentor, taught at Georgetown. According to Deborah Davis, Catherine the Great, by the early 1950s, Wisner owned respected members of the New York Times, Newsweek, CBS, and other communications vehicles. Cord Meyer was tapped by Allen Dulles to become Mockingbird's principal operative. One of the most important journalists under the control of Operation Mockingbird was Joseph Alsop, whose articles appeared in over 300 different newspapers. According to Nina Burleigh, who wrote a book called A Very Private Woman, these journalists sometimes wrote articles that were commissioned by Frank Wisner. The CIA also provided them with classified information to help them with their work. According to Alex Constantine, Mockingbird, the subversion of the free press by the CIA in the 1950s, some 3,000 salaried and contract CIA employees were eventually engaged in propaganda efforts. Wisner was able to restrict newspapers from reporting about certain events. For example, the CIA plots to overthrow the governments in Iran and Guatemala. Tom Braden, head of the International Organization Division, played an important role in Operation Mockingbird. Many years later, he revealed his role in these events. And I quote, "If the director of the CIA wanted to extend a present, say, to someone in Europe, a labor leader, suppose he just thought this man could use $50,000. He's working well and doing a good job. He can hand it to him and never have to account to anybody." There was simply no limit to the money it could spend, and no limit to the people it could hire, and no limit to the activities it could decide were necessary to conduct the war, the secret war. It was a multinational. Maybe it was one of the first. Journalists were a target, labor unions a particular target. That was one of the activities in which the communists spent the most money. Speaking of communists and Tom Braden, here's a clip from Crossfire in 1983, in May of 1983. With Congressman Larry P. McDonald.
Saying that former Secretary of State Alexander Haig and CIA Director William Casey are two of these master conspirators who are plotting to establish world government. Now, what do you say? That kind of silly, asinine statement is what makes people laugh. That's the John Birch society.
Well, Tom, I'm sure being a long-standing member of the Rockefeller apparatus, and as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations of longstanding, you're fully aware that there is an elitist core in this country that has some value in subsidizing communism or protecting communism.
It has?
Sure.
You're accusing me of subsidizing communism?
No, I'm saying
because I happen to belong to
there is an elite core.
Study group?
No, wait a minute. There is an elite core in this country that has dominated American society.
Well, I'm not one of them.
Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. Well, let's face it, they've dominated the State Department for 40 years, and pretty much openly.
Right, but what are they trying to do?
Well, their objective is to try to bring about a gradual transition in our society, a dissolving of sovereignty, and a moving steadily to the left on the political spectrum.
Well, who are they?
The elitist groups that I mentioned, particularly key individuals and policymakers in the Council on Foreign Relations.
Is the International Monetary Fund part of it?
Well, I would say the International Monetary Fund has certainly been set up for the purpose of facilitating that transfer of sovereignty and transfer of wealth on the road.
We elected Mr. Conservative.
Let me just finish the point, because otherwise we're going to have a lot of unanswered questions. But you are looking at a group that has worked to bring about a dissolution of national sovereignty on the road to world government. And certainly you're familiar with local professor Carol Quigley, who has been part of your club, in which he admitted all this. And he said in his book, Tragedy and Hope, the only thing I disagree is that we've worked to keep it a secret. And you see Arthur Schlesinger Jr. writing way back in 1947, says, yes, this is the hidden policy of America. But we can't tell the American public because they're too unsophisticated to see the value.
What is the instrumentality of world government? What is the instrumentality?
All the things to say about Arthur. That's the silliest statement I ever heard. He never made anything like that.
Well, let me suggest that you read the May-June issue of the Partisan Review of 1947, Tom, and you can read it for yourself. It's called...
Arthur Schlesinger said there was a conspiracy. A conspiracy to promote communism?
Oh, he didn't use the word conspiracy. He said the objective...
Let me finish.
I'll tell you. He said that the objective, the secret policy, which we can't tell the American public because they're not sophisticated enough to see the value, is that through a steady result of erosion of New Deals, we bring the American society steadily to the left, and through a sound concept of benign containment, we merge into the vital center of the socialist left. Those are his words, not mine. Now, if you don't believe in the Constitution and limited government and free enterprise and biblical values of morality,
I believe in all those, but I don't believe there's a conspiracy.
He'd make a lousy candidate.
Tom, you know, as a matter of
He's not a member of the conspiracy. He's a member of the press.
Let me ask you, Mr. Braden's used for the 47th time the term conspiracy. Now, let me ask you seriously. When you use people like Casey, who's on the Council on Foreign Relations, David Rockefeller's Trilateral Commission, what do you mean, or do you mean, is that your term, the term conspiracy?
Well, there are many different levels of the problem. But yes, the term has been used, the term of conspiracy, when you have a group of people...
I mean, they're actively collaborating, and at the other end of that point of collaboration are communists, and on this end of the point of collaboration is Bill Casey and trilateralists and CFO.
Al Haig. You have people who are part of the elitist structure of this country that have dominated this country openly for 40 years.
I know, but they're not... Is that a conspiracy?
Now, wait a minute. If people quietly working together for evil objectives, two or more, that by definition is a conspiracy. You have, by their own admission, you look at The Tragedy and Hope by Professor Carol Quigley. You remember this elitist group. You say, sure, we've been working with it. Sure, we've been collaborating with communism. Yes, we are working for a global accommodation. Yes, we are working for world government. The only thing I object to is that we have kept it a secret. And I think we've gone so far along, we should come out and say,
I bet you $1.50 that Bill Casey doesn't know who Professor Quigley is. I don't.
He's at Georgetown a number of years ago.
He died a couple of years ago, and he wrote The Tragedy and Hope. He's a very noted member of your club, Tom.
Tom, you've got to broaden your reading a little bit.
What I ought to do is read more about conspiracies, and that's why I'm interested in...
Well, I'll tell you what you ought to do is go back and look at your founder, Edward Mandell House, because he wrote the book Philip Drew Administrator, and in there, Colonel House said that what he envisioned for the world was a world government along socialist lines as envisioned by Karl Marx. Now, that's your leader, Tom, so you got to go back to the beginning.
Well, his leader was Woodrow Wilson. Do you think he was a communist?
No, I think Woodrow Wilson was his follower. I think Edward Mandell House dominated Wilson, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. And so Edward Mandell House, that was we ought to make that clear. He was President Wilson's
alter ego. That's correct.
Yeah. So he is the real villain from which all these conspiracies.
No. He is a major figure, Tom. But there has been, unfortunately, in the West, an element. There are good members in the Council on Foreign Relations, dedicated, patriotic people. You've had Sproul Braden, who was a member of the Council of the Birch Society, and Council on Foreign Relations. You've got some dedicated people, but the driving forces have very clearly been willing to collaborate, subsidize, work the technology transfer for what they feel is some type of an accommodation and merger. And I submit this would be a disaster for the American Republic.
Are there any in Congress?
Sure.
In 1956, Dwight Eisenhower became concerned about CIA covert activities and appointed David Bruce as a member of the President's Board of Consultants on Foreign Intelligence Activities. Bruce wrote a report on the CIA exposing their covert actions, and I quote, were responsible in great measure for stirring up the turmoil and raising the doubts about us that exists in many countries in the world today, and in the world today in 2014 as well. Okay, the evidence, as you can see, is overwhelming about all of this information that is suppressed. We know it's suppressed. Angelina Jolie is running around now. Alyssa Milano is for UNICEF. I mean, these organizations, the United Nations, are destroying the sovereignty of nations. Their goal, this elitist club, the New World Order elite, their goal in their own papers, and you can read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, they're going to take over the financial, put all the consolidation of financial power under one umbrella, their umbrella. And from there they will control the world, and their depopulation plans, it's already on, it's there, the Club of Rome. Please, don't believe a word I've said today, but research every word. Find your own truth. There is only one truth. Seek, and you'll find it.
World order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of of the world.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the US would participate fully,
We'll tell you
one rooted on four basic principles.
Non-proliferation and disarmament.
Man. None of it is true.
The promotion of peace and security.
Too long.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
And this present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be here for open or
Maniacs! In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
There's a need for new.
We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness. You